What's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome to episode 21 of Domiciled, the podcast that explores the subculture of truck drivers as well as logistics professionals, bringing their stories to the masses. I'm your host, Scott Cleary, and before we kick things off, you know what's up. We're going to give some love to Purple Squirrel. You can see this overlay here, the little ticker down below, so pay attention if you're looking for a new agent job in the space. Purple Squirrel represents freight agents, freight brokerages, and freight forwarding companies. If you would like to earn more, reduce your liability, and grow your career, you should have a chat with Ryan Smith over at Purple Squirrel about becoming an independent agent. They represent multiple broker and forwarding companies, allowing them to provide you with several career offers. You have options. Let them advocate on your behalf. Eventually, I'm going to memorize this thing. So their website is below, www.purplesquirrel.llc. Follow the intake form listed in the comments, fill it out, and start your next step in your career with Purple Squirrel. Paul, what's up, buddy? How is ProMat?
Dude, my feet, they just don't, it doesn't matter what shoe you wear. That's actually the truth. I actually ran a little bit of a study here. It doesn't matter if Nike Air Max, doesn't matter.
Nope.
Dress shoe, definitely a bad idea.
Never. Cole Haans.
Those crossover like Cole Haans, you think it's going to be better, still, end of the day, no good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then here's a quick one here. Don't do leg day when you're at a show.
Well, when did you do leg day?
What do you mean?
Like, so what day did you do leg day?
I just didn't.
Oh, yeah. No, you don't need to.
Yeah,
because you're humming.
Not
but
at
if you
all.
did, it'd be good to work out the lactic acid. You know, you're a little
But
sore, but it's good to get
60,000
moving. You did 60,000? What did you do? Just run in a circle around the freaking... No, you didn't.
Dude, do you know how short do you know how many more steps I have to take than you?
Okay, no, I was at TMC in Nashville 2 weeks. Well, at the time this release is like over a month ago, but I was at TMC in Nashville. We were walking all over Broadway, all over the thing. I mean, standing at the booth a lot, but most I had was like 24, and I was dying.
Yeah, we didn't do and by the way, not 60,000 altogether. It's 30,000 each.
Oh, well, that's still a lot. 30,000 is a lot.
But we didn't do a booth. We mainly went to meet with our customers.
Okay, so you were walking. All
right. It. And then of course, you know how it is. You can't walk down somewhere without someone going, "Hey, how you been?" Yeah. Right? And you're like, "Oh, what are you doing now?" And then it's just one of those. But no, it was a great time. Let me tell you, robots, really cool.
Oh, they had robots?
Oh my gosh. They had Boston Dynamics was there. They had like the little dog.
Did it have an accent?
Did what?
Did the robot have an accent?
You know how funny that would be if the dog scanned something? It was like, this thing's wicked broken. You know how funny that would be?
I know.
I'm imagining like, because you know what the way they explained it to me is that they have like thermal vision. So if there's a machine running, they can tell if there's damage before it breaks down.
Yeah.
I'm assuming through heat or friction or some sort of thing that's causing that. And all I could think of was, the second you said that was, yeah, we're going to need maintenance. This thing's wicked messed up.
It's like Peter Griffin's voice.
Yeah.
Oh, my
so
God.
Funny. But no, it was actually a really cool show. A lot of cool robots. A couple of humanoid robots showing up where they're picking things up and interacting with screens. And I was like, whoa.
It was interacting with screens, you said?
Yeah, it interacted with a touch screen.
So it has like eyes that can see what's going on. Dude, this is iRobot. Somebody call Will Smith.
I don't think he's really the man for it right now. I think what we need, truly, really and truly.
I think I know where you're going. I think I know where you're going with this.
What?
I think I know where you're going with this. What do we need? Who?
And I want to know what you think first.
Arnold.
Schwarzenegger?
Like, from the second one, though.
Yeah.
Pretty sure he's locked up in a castle in Austria somewhere because he's like had enough.
I don't know. I see video every once in a while. You see a video of him, and he's like, "This is my protein," and it's like he's making his protein shake, and like he's like, "And I put a little schnapps in it." I'm like, "All right." I can't get away with that.
Schnapps, it's like 6 ounces of schnapps.
Yeah. It's like, what are we doing? He's like, "This is the real muscle growth." I'm like, I don't know about that. Yeah, he's big on like the. I think he's a vegan vegetarian.
Really? That's too bad.
Yeah. But no, it's no. Yeah, we need some We definitely need some sort of task force for robots.
I just like AI is going to be a thing. I get it, and I know that we can control it, and it's not going to be Skynet. Like I've accepted that, but like
Okay.
robots interacting with a screen, and also like if you like say you throw a right hook at this robot, is it just going to kick your ass?
What if it docks? Yeah. What if it learns? What if
Dude,
he's
that's what
got?
I'm saying. It just like it takes
Sure.
one, and then
Yeah.
next time it's like nope.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean,
It's
it's
terrifying.
if you're punching something that's metal, depending on what it's made of,
Oh yeah.
probably not a good call.
All right,
But
fine. So a Louisville Slugger, whatever.
there you go. There you go. But if it ducks it, I'm going to tell you. I think there's what's the old saying? It's like it doesn't matter who you are. Like everyone's susceptible to the old double leg takedown.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Nothing can handle two hands behind the legs and tip your head to someone's sternum, and you just dump. Unless they teach these robots to sprawl, and then it's a problem.
If they get to wrestle, it's over.
Yeah. Speaking of wrestling,
yeah.
I don't know if you recall our conversation a few weeks ago.
But we have a lot of them, so.
No, I know we do. But we had someone on the show who was talking about their son wrestling.
Yeah.
Come to find out, Abby Nail told me that her son hit fourth. And
little golf clap for the kid.
Yeah. And then through kind of an event, kind of some unforeseen stuff of an injury, he's going to go to States.
Oh, good for him. He's 12, right?
Yeah.
Ooh, baby.
So
that's exciting.
Yeah. And so he's got States this coming weekend. So wishing Abby over at Knitchell.
Knitchell. Yeah, Knitchell.
You got to say it right because they gave us shirts.
They did. Can't screw it up. How long did your pretzels last, by the way? Mine lasted less than 36 hours.
Oh, no. I ration. It's 100 calories.
Ration?
Yeah, I ration.
I ration too. 6 one day, 6 the next day.
Yeah, 2 different approaches. I was like, ooh, a nice sweet treat before dinner or before I go to sleep. A little 100 calories didn't hurt anybody. So that lasted me like a few days, quite a few days.
Oh, good for you. Good for you. Yep. So
we were so good. Boring, aren't we?
No. I mean, yeah, kind of. I'm debating whether to have my actual dinner tonight, which is like apple, peanut butter, and a protein shake, or like go to Jersey Mike's.
Jersey Mike's.
I think I'm gonna go to Jersey Mike's or Moe's.
What's your trainer's name again?
Britt. Yeah, don't tell Britt.
Yeah, sorry, Britt. Sorry, Britt. He's going.
I'm lean and mean right now, so you know what? A little Moe's never hurt anybody. But and enough about us. I think we bring our guy in today, huh?
Oh yeah, we got a great guest this week.
Yes, we do. Didn't forget about him. He's in the waiting room just sweating right now. Like, why am I here? Listening to these idiots talk about nonsense. But anyways, yeah, so I'm gonna get this prepped. So we're gonna get Purple Squirrel down here because Grayson couldn't make it. Whatever, guys, one and done. He did step in for you last episode, so we gave you crap, so I'm giving him a little crap now.
That's fair.
I can't wait to see what he does with our content.
Yeah, I'm excited for him photoshopping my face into that episode so that I'm there for moral support.
That'd be funny if he did. So, anyways, our next guest comes highly regaled from my trusty co-host, Paul Barsamian here. This guy has been in supply chain management for over 35 years. I'll be 34 at the end of April. Starting in high school, this madman found himself in a couple warehousing jobs, spent significant time in the Army, transitioning to the Transportation Corps in 93, deployed for just over a year in Iraq in 04. That's that country way east of us, with a lot of sand. Good people.
Over the river.
Yeah. Over that near your people, but where the beards connect. But so anyway, since he's... Since settling down as an associate professor, he has rediscovered his creative side as a Lego enthusiast, practicing yoga and meditation as well. I want to get into that a little bit. So we simply cannot wait to cover it all. So thank you for your service. Welcome to the show. Jeremy Banta, what's up?
Hey, Atlas has to have a Southie accent. I mean,
yeah.
Female or male?
Oh, male.
Female or male?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yo, boss, you want me a pocket car?
Yeah, you're late. It just walks over. You're late for work again.
Yeah. Or actually, I was thinking it just keeps bothering you, trying to get you to bum it a cigarette.
Yeah,
and you keep explaining that you don't smoke, and he just doesn't understand.
Yeah, it's like, and And it's definitely like the Pack-A-Day in Newport's voice, not like my parents, but like definitely the Pack-A-Day. Like Casey Affleck in that SNL skit with the Duncan
Oh, yeah.
skit.
There you go.
That had
There
me
you go.
on in stitches every time.
Yeah, because you knew
Oh
like
my
15
gosh.
people like that, Scott.
No, I mean that's like that was like my life until I was 23. But yeah. Anyways, we're here to talk about Jeremy. So, Paul, I know you have an idea on how you want to kind of tout things today because you were afraid I was going to go off on a tangent. Um, so I'll let you kick it off. I'll let you get it going with Jeremy, and then we'll just go from there.
We'll definitely make sure we get to talk about the yoga.
Yes.
Sure.
Hey, Jeremy's like, really? Yoga, huh?
All the stuff I've done, and
Yeah, I gotta warn you, Jeremy. Scott, we say he's 10 ply. Okay,
Super
like
soft.
Okay.
Ultra Charmin Ultra Soft's like what, 4 ply? This guy's 10, right? A little Ultra Soft. That cup he's drinking out of is a Taylor Swift cup.
The Eras Tour. Yep.
The Eras Tour. He's
Big fan.
He's a Scott's. It's funny too because that cup gets more and more wear and tear every time I see it.
Every time.
It's like a kid's stuffed animal. It just keeps getting worse and worse and worse after every wash.
I sleep with it.
All right.
TMI.
But,
TMI.
yeah. See this
I'm
guy.
out.
All
Bye.
yeah. We'll see ya.
Oh, stop
Thanks
it.
for coming. No, Jeremy. So we met at WERC last year.
Mm-hmm.
And chatted quite a bit. And I just thought you were, it was really fun to talk with you from Legos. I think we chatted about that for a bit. Sometimes how hard it is to even get some of those now.
Yeah.
It's really hard. And I think we were talking at the time about the Lego truck, the actual tractor trailer that they had put out. And then, having more conversations at that conference. And since then, I mean, when we were spinning this up, one of the first things I was like is, from our conversation about your career, I was like, we got to talk to Jeremy. At some point, we got to talk to Jeremy.
Nice.
So I'm happy we set this up. I really appreciate you coming on. One of the things I think to start with is, right now you kind of mentioned before the show, right? You kind of might have done your career a little backwards, right? Because right now you're in education.
Correct.
So tell us about that.
Well, so it's kind of not necessarily a long story, but it goes all the way back to college. So I went to the Ohio State University. We have to say that it's officially part of the name. I'm a creative, and I was in marketing. I got a ROTC scholarship for business, and marketing was the closest I could get to anything creative. And my advisor at the beginning of my third year was like, "Hey, if you pick up this second program, you graduate with a dual degree." I'm like, "Sure, sign me up." I didn't even ask her what it was. And it was transportation and logistics. And I had done warehousing work prior to that. So it just kind of fit naturally. So, I mean, I've been in logistics education for a long, people still don't know you can get degrees in logistics. And I've always been kind of interested in education, and an in-law, a prior in-law was an adjunct. And this was probably 30 years ago. And I was like, ooh, that's kind of a cool gig for when you're older. I mean, just talking about stuff and you get paid for it. I mean, that's awesome. So probably about 20 some years ago, I started kind of laying the foundation to eventually retire from the Army and teach full time. And it worked out. But the reason I did it backwards is because I went through ROTC and then I went into the civilian workforce, and I did that for a while. And I jokingly say I left full-time supply chain to reduce my stress level and go full-time military. So yeah, while most people go military full time and then go out in the civilian workforce, that's where my backwards part comes in a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. I think most of the time people think like, oh, it's about like reintegrating into society, right? And and I can kind of imagine this here. You're going, okay, well, I've got like 30,000 fires burning. It sure would be nice to get a clean slate on this.
It'd be nice to get shot at.
Yeah.
There is a downside. Yes.
Yeah. It's kind of funny to think, you're looking at that, you're like, it'd be way better, the desert.
Yeah.
Sitting in your office watching, trying to figure out where the heck this truck is, and you're like, you know what? Screw it.
Yeah.
Oh man. So what was that like? I mean, going through You coming from? It sounds like you did marketing and transportation.
Yeah, I did one marketing job. So my first job right out of college, I was a marketing analyst, just crunching numbers and looking at, it was a catalog mail order company. And it was really interesting. But it wasn't a career job. And as I was looking in marketing and logistics, and just so happened to get a job in logistics, and just kind of bounced around. I did a lot of retail. I did some manufacturing. I was a headhunter for a little bit, doing logistics headhunting. I was awful at that. Yeah, put me on a warehouse floor. Give me a fleet of trucks. Yeah, that's my area. Or stand in front of a classroom and just yapping about logistics. That's kind of my sweet spot. But yeah, selling, no.
Yeah, so it's an acquired skill for sure.
Hats off to anybody that can do it and make money off of it, and especially enjoy it. Because I just did not. I'd rather go back to the desert.
That one's definitely like, would I rather sell something or be in the desert? Give me desert every time.
Yeah. Title of the episode: I'd rather go back to the desert.
Yeah.
There you go. We got the title. Clip it. But no, that's really awesome. So, I know a little bit about what the programs you work on now from an education standpoint, but tell us a little bit, for the folks that don't know you, a little bit about what you teach now and how that makes an impact.
Yeah, I think the best way to frame that is to say that my holy grail job before I started teaching was to go back to Ohio State. I mean, to go back to your alma mater and teach. That's that's just awesome, and it's literally like a couple miles that way. And
you're in Columbus.
Yeah, I live downtown.
I got a good buddy out that way. Nice.
Oh, it's awesome. But I stumbled across this job opening at Columbus State. At the time I was married, my wife had come up through academia, and she's like, you need to apply for the job. You may never, ever see that job again. And I'm like, well, I'm too young. I'm not quite ready, but I'll apply for it anyway. And got it. And my first thought was, great launching pad to get to Ohio State. And about 2 months in, I realized, no, I'm home. Columbus State. So the best part of being in the military for me was at the company command level when I was a captain. I'm directly in charge of soldiers. I'm talking to them every day. When we were deployed, we had to worry about their home lives. We had to worry about everything going on. And you did a lot of mentoring, teaching, and coaching. And my students right now are out in the workforce. I have everything from high school juniors to people that have been in the industry for 30 years to career changers that are in their 50s. And I get this nice variety of students. And what I teach in the classroom, they go to work the next day and go, hey, boss, why aren't we cycle counting? So I approach my curriculum through kind of a toolbox approach. I'm not preparing people to go out into the workforce. I'm preparing them to succeed where they are now. I tell my students this all the time. Nobody grew up going, man, I want to be a Columbus State Cougar. I really want to go to Columbus State. No, they're in my classroom. They're at our school because it's close, it's affordable. And it gets them to where they need to go. So I keep that in mind as I do all my assignments, as I do all my teaching, that I'm working on getting them a promotion or a new career or, off to another place, as opposed to entering the workforce, because I don't have a ton of people like that. I have a warehouse management class. I have an inventory management class. I have a performance management class. I'm one of the few programs in Columbus State that requires an internship because you got to have some experience to get out there. We kind of approach it like a toolbox. I want them to have resources and references that 10 years from now, they're like, oh, you know what? I remember talking about that in Professor Banta's class. I think I have a book on that somewhere. So that's kind of how I approach it.
It's so funny you say that because, I sell into the warehouse space, and it didn't really click for me until I started, on the on-site. You kind of turn off that sales piece and you turn on the why. Why do you do that?
Yeah.
Or why is that pallet this way when you're unloading it? Why is it not that? Because from a brokerage standpoint, you never really experience how it's loaded, right?
No.
You just know that there's a full truckload of palletized goods going from point A to point B, right? You're worried about making sure it gets on the load board.
Oh, one of my best student stories is entry-level class, the prereq for all the rest of my classes. I had a student that worked for a local major business. She worked in import export. We did a warehouse tour at her, not through her, but just because I had contacts. And so she's touring one of her warehouses that she's never been in. She saw something on the floor and went back to her boss the next day and said, "Hey, this is why we have a problem with this. I saw it on the floor and it's not the way we thought it was." And the boss was like, "Oh my gosh, that's brilliant." And took her entire staff on a warehouse tour like the next week, just because they've never laid eyes on what they were talking about on a daily basis. So yeah.
I didn't mean to smirk during the educational story. So whenever I hear, I don't know if you caught it or if you're, but like whenever I hear importing and exporting, all I can think of is Seinfeld. He's like, "Jerry, can I be an importer? No, he asked if he can be an architect. When he goes, "Oh, what do you do for work?" He's like, "Oh, I'm an importer, and I export too. You know, I'm an importer exporter." I'm sorry, I'm like 9 years old. Exactly. Every time, I can't help it. But no, that is really cool that you get to have the application, like right now, right? That's got to be better than like a bunch of knucklehead kids who just thinking about where the next party's at. And of course, you're there to learn no matter what. But like you said in the outline, you feel that you make an impact every day, and those examples are awesome. One quick question I'm always interested to learn when I talk to vets that I don't ask often because don't necessarily get the chance, and also don't want to over pry, but maybe I'm just thinking too much. Being that you did what you've done, which we'll get into more, and you saw what you've seen, you lived through what you did. Like what's maybe like when dealing with, and I love that we're called civilians because it's almost like you're just looking down at us, like civilian, right? I love it. I love it. No, I think it's hilarious. Anyways, my own little joke for myself. But like, is there ever like a difficult? Do you ever have like difficulty with somebody having a problem with something or struggling with something that to you you're just like really? Like this is what's bugging you? Like let me tell you. I mean
daily, hourly. Yeah, it's yeah, especially
civilians.
Especially in today's charged political climate. The stuff that people get really, and on both sides, it doesn't matter, the far right, far left. It's just like, okay, is this really the hill that you want to die on? Really?
Yeah. That's such a good point.
Oh my God.
So, but yes, it is. Yeah. It doesn't come into play as much, in the education space and with students and stuff. It came into play a lot coming back from deployment. And in 2004, my unit was one of the very first units sent over. You had the active duty initial forces that, took Baghdad, and then we all came in afterwards to help support. So when I came back, there were very few people that had deployed, and just sitting in meetings with lieutenant colonels and colonels that are arguing about the stupidest stuff. And I'm this captain just like freaking out because it means
you
nothing.
Can't like put them in their place either, right? It's like that hierarchy it's like you can't be like, "Hey, idiot." Like,
well,
I may have a few times in trouble.
Well, right. It's okay to ruffle feathers, especially if you've been there, right? Been there, done that. Maybe listen to me a bit, right?
Yeah. I came back a little earlier than I was before. Yeah.
Yeah. Jeremy, I can imagine you're like sitting here, they're arguing about what font the PowerPoint needs to be. And you're like, guys,
you do not know how true that is.
It's like, why do we care about, we caring about this? This is what we got.
Should that comma be there? I mean, I don't know.
The Oxford comma.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And it's 2004. So someone's running and getting a book to see exactly how that word's spelled.
Right.
They're like, no, it's wrong. It's wrong. Oh, different. What's it, Scott? No, the other provocative.
The other provocative.
Or Shoresy reference. Oh, I thought they meant provocative. Oh, the other provocative. But it's funny you say that. I think every experience you have, and I can't pretend to have experience what you have, but I think every experience you have puts everything else into perspective. And that's what's interesting about being alive is that like as you grow in your career, as you grow in some things, like you might have a falling out with somebody, you might have a disagreement, and maybe when you're earlier in your career, like, oh no, everything's ruined, and then you're older and you're like, oh, we had a disagreement and we're fine, right? We had this, someone was wrong, someone was right, maybe we're both wrong, maybe we're both right? But you go, great, have we solved it? Awesome, we feel better, great, let's go, right? And that's, I think that's what's good about kind of trying to always develop, right? like kind of always trying to be like, okay, what can I take from this experience to the next experience?
Oh, exactly. Yep.
And I imagine you did a lot of that.
I try to bring a lot of that into the classroom too. Just, telling stories from, my civilian jobs and, places I've toured and, military leadership type stuff. That is one of the things I do a little bit unique, is I do teach leadership. Nobody teaches leadership. I mean, you can take a class, but nobody really teaches it. And I've got so much experience in it. I'm like, all right, let's let my students learn from some of my stupid mistakes, and we'll tell some stories and train them to be better at their job that they're working right now. But it took being in the desert for a year, sleeping on a cot with mortars going off on a daily basis, definitely puts other things in perspective.
I can't imagine. You hit on something there on leadership, because no one really teaches it. Yeah, I think that's a really true statement. Another thing is, like, the only way it seems to learn a lot of that is to make a mistake.
Yeah.
There doesn't seem to be you can give someone a leadership rule book, right? When you're on the plane and you see someone's got the Harvard Business Review for leadership that they bought for $25 at the bookstore, right? When they could have read it online, and they're looking through it, and it's kind of like, man, I don't know if that's probably not going to move the needle as much as you think. But once it's put in the context of what you do, or like, I think the other one is always back to like the difference in your early career and then kind of as you progress through it. And I think I'd say I'm fairly early in my career, Scott, both of us, right? And it's like, once it's put in the context of what you do, right, and then also talking to someone and realizing that usually when someone that's been there for a while goes, hey, when you do that, don't do this, do that. They're not saying it because they're just telling you what to do. They've got a horror story in their head that they did. And they're like, yeah, look, man, don't step on that landmine, and you're going to step on it. I can see it in your eyes. Don't do that.
Don't push the button. Don't
push the button. It's a pretty button. Don't push it. I know it's blinking. It's bright. It's changing colors. Don't touch it.
Well, I came up in an era of zero defects in the military, and it was really hard because that meant your senior leadership was just constantly micromanaging you, and you never got a chance to fail. And I was more than happy to let some of my young officers, if I saw an opportunity where they were going down the wrong path, but it really wasn't going to hurt anybody or make any major problems, let them go. Let them experience the mistake. I had a young lieutenant that was like, yeah, I think I'm going to tell my staff this, and we're going to do this from now on. I'm like, okay. And like 2 weeks later, I'm like, hey, how'd that work out? And he's like, oh no, the next day they were all pissed at me. And I'm like, I knew that was coming. I wanted to see what was going to happen. He's like, you let me do that? I'm like, yeah, why not? You learn from it.
Yeah. I think it's I think there was something in like in a class I had in college about like early childhood development. They were talking about places like Germany where they like practice something where they want the kid to risk take and get hurt, and that apparently later in life they risk take less because they were like, oh, if I climb that jump, right, I'm going to break my leg. And then, so you get kind of a good understanding of your boundaries and where you sit. And I think that's a really good point of saying, like, even in your career, you're trying to understand where, what are the mistakes? You're the sum of all your mistakes more so than your experience in a good way, right? Yeah. If you can learn from it. And I think that's really interesting to bring up because letting people fail is often like a way better tool than telling them.
Oh yeah. Well, and I tell my students all the time, take the shitty job, work at the bad place. You learn more in a bad job from a bad boss than you ever do at a good job. I mean, stick it out as long as you can and pull from it as much as you can. Sometimes you got to stick with it. Sometimes you got to take that third shift job with the horrible, dirty company.
You've done that, I guess. It sounds like you've done that.
Yeah, I have.
Oh my God. Third shift in a warehouse. I can't even.
Oh, the stories you get though, Scott.
I know. No, I mean, yeah, that's why we're here.
Yeah. I got a buddy that works third at a warehouse out in Michigan. Shout out, Chris. And the stories he tells me that I get a phone call at 6 a.m. and he goes, you're not going to believe, I can hear him smoking a cigarette. He's like, you're not going to believe what just happened. And he's jazzed because he's on his third energy drink of the cycle. And he's like, you're not going to believe it. Did you know that when a truck backs up into this, it can do this? I'm like, Yeah, but no, it's I agree with you 100%. I think you learn more from bad bosses than you do from good ones sometimes.
Yep.
Well, I mean, it's like you can't win when you can't learn when you're winning, right? So I mean, the cliche adage, but like it's true. Like you don't, if you're not going through something, you're not going to improve. And it's for example, like I've had at my job at Revenove, I've had a fantastic 2 years, and this, I had a bit of a dip, and then, it's probably for a lot of different reasons, but normally for myself, like I'm a bit of a head case. Like in the past, like I'd be spiraling, thinking I was worthless, thinking I wasn't any good, thinking oh, I'm gonna get fired, and it's like I've learned to compartmentalize, because like if you actually, I was listening, and now I'm gonna really go left here, but I was listening to Jay Shetty podcast, and he had David Goggins on podcast and a podcast, just inception here, and Goggins was talking about how you can't, like, your mind cannot handle like thinking about your whole week. Like you can literally only think about, like, okay, this hour, now this hour. Like maybe you can do your day, but like the more intense it is, like when he's going through the SEAL Hell Week, like you can't think about, I got 129 more hours of this. It's like I have this 1 hour doing whatever you're doing in that moment. So it's realizing that, like, oh, this slow period, like it's been not even a quarter. Like, and you're not useless, you're not worthless, like you're not bad at your job. Like just like take a deep breath, control your controllables, put in your effort, right? And then it's gonna spin out eventually, and it's gonna come back. And less than 3 years ago, probably last year or 2 years ago, like it would have been a completely different headspace.
Yeah.
So yeah,
my kind of personal mantra.
With that.
Yeah, my personal mantra that I tell myself all the time is I spent a year in Iraq on a cot. I can make it through whatever the heck I'm going through right now.
I heard the flies crawl.
What's that?
I heard the flies crawl over there. Like they walk because it's too hot to fly.
Oh.
I heard. Is that true?
Where I was, there were not that many bugs. There wasn't much of anything.
Okay.
We had sand fleas. That was about it.
Ooh.
Those will bite you and leave a nasty.
Yeah. Anyways, you mentioned something about physical therapy. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just saying, you're going through physical therapy, and it's intense pain as they work something out, and you're like, all right, another few minutes. Yeah, I was on a cot in Iraq for a year. I'm not doing a sales job.
Yeah,
I'm okay. I can make it through this.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
No, 100%. No, so I mean, Jeremy, we've alluded to it a few times, but I think what I'd really be interested in chatting about, kind of as we get towards the end of this, is what's it like to go from one day I'm stateside, I'm doing X, right? I've worked in warehouses before. I just came from, worked in marketing, and now I'm going to go manage quite a few things and have quite a few people that depend on not only what we do in a close standpoint of my direct reports, right, but also, what you do in supply.
Yeah,
100% impacts everybody else. I think it was, I read it in a book somewhere that was very dense, that it was like, I think Alexander the Great said, if he lost a campaign, and the first person he's blaming is not the soldiers, it's the logisticians, right? It's like we didn't move where we didn't have what we needed where we needed it.
Yeah.
And so it's an important job. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I never really thought about it from the aspect of working at Value City department stores and Big Lots, and then finding myself a couple years later standing in the middle of a desert with 60 semis, 120 trailers, running 40 trucks on a convoy every single day. Yeah, it was definitely surreal. I was the commander of the 1485th Transportation Company. We were medium trucks, so 5 tons, the old school 5-ton, but in a semi form. So we were designed for off-road. We were slow, so we couldn't do the over the road, the long haul stuff, just because it just took us too long. And we got assigned to a mission clearing Class 9 repair parts from BIOP, Baghdad International Airport. So the strategic air hub was located in Baghdad. The Air Force would fly stuff in, offload it, put it on my empty trailers, and then I would send 2 convoys a day from Balad, which is where the Army set up the core distribution center. Don't ask me why they weren't in the same place. They separated
the military
by 40 miles because, for some reason. But it gave me
government. That's how it goes.
But yeah, so we would haul 40 trailers of repair parts back up to Balad every day, and then drop them off in the core distribution center, which was just another spot in the desert. And then they would then I would hand it over to them, and then they would disseminate it, and ship it to wherever it was supposed to go. But yeah, it was definitely interesting. And if we didn't run on a day, then that meant vehicles were down. Very early in the war, this is the first set of supplies that were starting to come in. They were still trying to figure out the process. So it was extremely urgent. The most urgent things that we would haul were called AOG, aircraft on ground. So any time an airframe was down and we had to move something, it was the highest priority. So like a helicopter blade.
Wow.
That just because a truck being down, I mean, it's a big deal, but there's thousands of trucks in theater, but there's only a set number of, attack helicopters. And when one of those is down, people are dying. So yeah, it was kind of interesting. We hauled everything from fiberglass Humvee tops to, every kind of part that you could think of, tons of tires, all kinds of cool stuff.
So yeah, I never thought about that. I never thought about that of being like, okay, so it's not just parts for like a truck or this or that. It's like, if an attack helicopter is down, right, that's like fire support that doesn't happen, right, and things of that nature. And there's people counting on that existing because that's kind of America's edge, right? And so you're like, you gotta, so you talk about expedite, right? But then you're doing that in these off-road, ready vehicles that aren't the fastest in the world. So you got to hope that it's not, you got to hope that things are moving correctly, right? You can really only probably control your lanes, right? Once you get past that, you're like, well, I hope they put it on, right?
Yep.
So that's so interesting.
Were you getting angry calls from the proverbial receiver asking where their stuff was? Like,
well,
did that still exist? Or?
No, but I got daily proverbial dress downs from my commander and his commander on where the stuff was. So yeah,
essentially the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it was definitely high priority and extremely stressful, especially if we would mess something up. And the more trucks I had running, the more stuff I could move. So it was not uncommon to find one of the parts we needed on one of the trucks. It wasn't for us. We were hauling it for somebody else. But if my truck's down, you're not getting any of your stuff. So I'm going to borrow that carburetor. So every now and then something would fall off of a truck. But, and early on in a war, that it kept my trucks rolling, which meant your stuff was rolling too. So,
yeah, I've heard that's called, what is it? Tactical acquisition.
Yeah.
I'm stealing that one.
Yeah. So you're saying theft? It's like kind of.
No, we didn't steal anything. We appropriated it.
Yeah. Like I said, I acquired tactical.
Reallocated the resource.
There you go. Yep.
Oh, Scott, you've been hanging out with consultants too much. But no. So that's really fascinating. So like, I think about some of the things we have now from a transportation standpoint, and then I think about 2004, and then I think about the fact that if the rest of the world, right, if the private sector's here, where's the government at from a technology standpoint? And then that makes me want to ask you the question: did you have to do all this with pen and paper? Was this spreadsheets? Was this AS4? What resources do you have to route this stuff? Or are you just going, hey, you're going here at this time, and you're like, I hope they go there at that time, right? And don't take a wrong turn. What's that like?
Yeah, we were all pen and paper from an operations standpoint. I mean, I was in briefings every day and I was doing freaking PowerPoint slides, but we didn't have vehicle to vehicle communication. I had limited number of radios. I actually used civilian handheld walkie-talkies. We had the very, very early on mobile tracking systems. So satellite nav. We had maybe one of those in every 10 trucks, and they didn't work very well. So we could kind of see where we were. We could see some updates, but for the most part, that MTS system, it was in its infancy. They were testing IED jamming technology with some of our convoys. But yeah, we didn't have a whole heck of a lot to go on. So, we would leave post early in the morning and then be out of communication until we got down to Baghdad, and then we could, radio back up or call back up if we needed something. And then I wasn't out every day, so I waited every single day for my radio operator to let me know that the convoy's back and everything was okay. Because if they got hit or something happened, I wouldn't know about it. Yeah, I would absolutely have no idea about it.
How could every truck not at least have a radio? Like, that's wild.
Well, that's so crazy. Because we ran under very tight controls, so you didn't really get separated. If you did, we had actions that we would take. Our security trucks had communication, and they would have redundant communication. So we would put the radios in vehicles that also had the MTS systems. Everybody had a handheld. But yeah, so we would use some kind of like triple redundant communications. There was a big push on using civilian communication, and they really didn't want us to, because anybody could buy a walkie-talkie. But it was better. We thought it was better for us to be able to communicate, because they didn't know what we were saying. I mean, they could hear our words, but we're using slang and jargon and stuff like that. And we would change it up.
You can learn English, but if you got a guy from Southie over there yelling on it, he might as well be
those six cannolis are too far behind. Speed them up, or I'm going to throw them in the river. What?
Yeah, what river here? But yeah, it's basically like what was the thing we used in World War II? Was it the Navajo Windtalkers? Right, it might as well be that. What are these guys saying? They're trying to do intel on you. They have no idea what this guy from Southie's saying. He's like, it's wicked hot. He's like, it's what? Is that code? No, I think
the heat's not evil.
Yeah. Oh man, that's so funny. But yeah, it's really fascinating. So what's it been like going from that? Because you had a decent career, obviously after that as well, no?
Yeah. I retired in I left full-time service in 2016, retired in 2017 as a lieutenant colonel.
Wow.
I've got a 20-year retirement. The weekend retirement, not like the active duty. It's still a retirement. But yeah, it was shocking. I was the senior federal logistician for the Ohio National Guard. So there's a federal side, and then there's the state side. And so I knew everything that was going on, because I had to make sure that we had all the supplies for everything. I wasn't ordering them, but I had to maintain control of them. I had a warehouse, all the soldiers' equipment, all the trucks, everything we were responsible for. So I knew everything going on. And then I go into academia as a faculty member. I don't know anything. I know my lane, and that's it. And it took probably 2 years to not feel this like, oh my God, I don't know what's going on. Oh my God, how come I didn't know about that? And it was a total shock. And I'm still kind of coming down from, that level of anxiety for that long of a time. It just doesn't go away overnight.
Yeah. Is that because that's so important? Like, if something gets messed up or you don't know something, the repercussions could be so severe, and where in civilian life it usually isn't. Is that what you're getting at, or am I missing?
Yeah, so that's where that joke comes from, that I wanted to reduce my stress level by going full-time military, and the reason that the stress went up and it became more important. But I had one mission, and that was to serve the soldier.
Boom.
Yeah. So every time I'm like, oh man, I don't want to do this. If I didn't do it, 10 soldiers wouldn't have food, or that truck wouldn't make it on that mission, or something else would happen. And I'm like, okay, so and that's what made it a little bit more. But what that does is it heightens every single problem, because now how much does this impact soldiers? And it's not just, okay, well, this doesn't ship over the weekend, or my boss is a little mad. It's okay, a unit didn't have food for drill weekend because I didn't send an email. So yeah, it definitely, and then you start ruminating about things, and you're taking a shower on Sunday, and you're like, oh shit, I forgot about this. And yeah, it was nonstop.
That's wild.
Now that's interesting. So you said you were on like the federal side. Does that ever cover like disaster response, things like that nature? Yeah.
Yeah. So the way a quick education is you got the regular Army, that's the active duty troops, and then you've got the U.S. Army Reserve. So that's like the Army Light. They just do the weekend thing. And then you have the Guard, and the Guard reports to each governor. So we were responsible to the state governor. And the only time we were ever responsible to the president is if we were activated or called up for some reason, or if there was a disaster declaration. So the federal government would give stuff to each state. And then there's a whole federal side of things in each state that makes sure that the federal money and equipment is used properly and accounted for properly and maintained properly. And that was my job.
There it is. So you learn something new every day.
Oh, yeah. It's funny. I brought this well, I call him young officer. He was kind of my age, but he was a little bit junior to me, on board. And after about 3 months, he's like, how do you know all this? And I'm like, dude, the learning curve, most jobs, it comes up and then it tapers off as you kind of figure everything out. You figure out the business. No, this job, the learning curve was a 45-degree angle straight up all the time. I mean, it just, everything changed constantly. New programs, you get new equipment fielded to you, people would change, leadership would change. Yeah, it was
wow.
Yeah.
Sounds
it kept it interesting.
I mean, so I guess it sounds like it's kind of like being in sales. Just you get one mission and it's a lot more important.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of those things you listed, I go, okay. No, that's I can totally see, kind of from a stress level standpoint of having it focused on one thing. Right. And having one mission and having just one focus. It just sounds like that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. Well, and I left civilian workforce because I'm like, I'm working. I was in the Guard. I'm trying to drill on weekends. I was at a new warehouse it wasn't a startup, but it was a company that started a new warehouse here in Central Ohio. So they were working multiple weekends, and all I'm doing is working my butt off to make the owners in France a little more rich. And I'm like, why am I doing this? That just doesn't make sense. I'm balancing, a new family and 2 careers, and it was just too much. So then I go full-time Guard and find myself about 2 years later in a desert in Iraq. And
well, plus who likes the French anyway? It's like,
yeah, right. I don't think they like us either. No. So I mean, I guess to finally like kind of pull that together is really where I'm curious about is like, so post deployment, right? And you're in leadership and you're in that for quite a bit of time, right? Mm-hmm. You go from there, you probably have to learn a whole nother, now the other things are, now we're doing PowerPoints and this, I think we were joking earlier about, this font's wrong, or should that comma be there, right? Yeah. And then you move from there to education. And I guess to tie it all together, where do you think that you pulled the most value and experiences from that you were able to kind of compact down and say, you know what, these are kind of some sound bites. These are kind of some things I can use to help people out. And as you've gone into this job now, right, and you've been doing this for a while, are there any stories that stick out where someone in the civilian space been like, hey, I'm trying to figure out this, or maybe somebody came by your office hours and was like, hey, I got this problem, I can't really figure out how to do this, or maybe I'm trying to achieve this at work. Like, are there any mentorship situations that, where you felt like, hey, I got some experiences, I know exactly what to say here?
Yeah. I think this is an indirect answer, but it's the gravity of the kind of situation that I ran into. And I'm really big on words and semantics, and the right term means something, especially in our business. I really harp on my students about talking in generalities on like a case study when we have to talk in specifics. Because if you say, I'm going to prioritize this stuff, I'm going to do this one first, I'm going to do this one next. Well, what does next mean? Does it mean after the first one's done? Does it mean you're going to start the first one and then start the second one? It's important in our industry. And so that when someone says, hey, what's a story from your service that really rings true? When I was in Iraq, my commander switched. So I had a new commander. He came into our area of operations and wanted a tour, wanted to know what we're doing. And this was planned, so I knew he was coming. And he comes in, we say the niceties, and like, all right, give me the spiel. And I'm like, all right, sir, 14th, 5th, Dover, Coshocton, New Philly, Ohio, or, here since so-and-so, came with 187 bodies. I've got 100. He's like, wait, hold on. Bodies are dead. Those are soldiers. And I mean, even this today, that gives me chills. And it shows the gravity of what we were doing, and it shows the importance of the word. Because we are notorious in the military of calling people bodies. We do that in the civilian side too. Hey, I need 2 bodies over here. Need an extra. Need a warm body over here. That just shakes me to my core. But I can't. I could correct people in the military on it. You can't really do that in the civilian world. But it does highlight the importance of treating your people right and picking your words carefully. And that's like the one story that hits me the hardest, even though it was really not a big thing. It still gives me chills.
But it was.
Yeah.
I mean, if it gives you chills, then it was a big thing. And I'm big on words myself because I can't even add. So, like words are my thing, and I do really enjoy them, and I think that they matter to me too. And just the point of not even that. The respect piece, right, of like a body, like you're more than that, right? And it can have an impact, even if you're not saying it like that, it really does matter. And then to the point of in the military situation, it literally means dead. So it's like, well, wait a second, you can come over here with caskets. So like to your point, the details matter, and the word's so powerful.
Yeah.
And and the fact that something that we were using the quote today, basic or simple, like stuck with you that long, I think don't underplay it. It is that important.
Yeah. I don't know if the entire Army does it. I know the Ohio National Guard capitalized the word soldier. I think the Army does too. I always do. I capitalize the word student. Those are important words. Those are my lifeblood. That's why I do what I do. But yeah, when you say, is there a story? It's not a funny one, not a gruesome one. It's not a real cool, like, hey, there's a whole bunch of trucks, but that's one that always hits hard.
I think that's kind of why, right? I think probably why that hits hard. I really like that because I think life's a little bit stranger than fiction.
Yeah.
And I think the joke is, I've had some of the most important moments in my life, right, with folks, people I care about, things like family and stuff like that. And, there's a lot of times in life where you go, really? This is when we were going to do, you're kind of looking up like we were going to have the really important thing here. Right. And it's like, you got memories in a Denny's. Why is that memory so important in a Denny's? What was that conversation? Did you really, and it's like, it is stranger than fiction sometimes. Sometimes it's not in the right opportune place or in a conversation. It's an offhanded comment that, or just something kind of on the side of just a quick correction and then move on. Right. And it sticks with you.
Yeah.
And, I wonder if I heard you say something that you capitalized student.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably, you answered my question really well, because you're saying, the way it sounds to me is like, hey, soldiers capitalized because that's something important, but student, which a lot of people think, oh, you're a student, like, oh, you're learning, you don't know anything yet, right? And it sounds to me like you hold that in pretty high regard.
Yeah, because I always was concerned about taking care of my soldiers. I didn't really care about my leadership. I did, but my theory has always been, if I take care of my soldiers, if I take care of my students, if I take care of my employees, then I'm going to take care of my boss, and my boss can, take the accolades. And that's the whole point. But if I spend all my time taking care of the administration at work or my bosses or the command structure, and I forget about the soldiers or the students, then what am I doing? Why am I even bothering? So yeah, I do get a little frustrated, not to pick on my school at all, but yeah, when we make a decision or somebody makes a decision up high and it hurts my students or hurts the students in general, you're like, oh man, did they realize what they were doing? So yeah, I guess I did answer that. I didn't realize I was, but I did.
No, you nailed it. That was really good. I think it's, for everything you've shared with me for the moment we met last year. You sound like a real stand-up guy. It sounds like you make a real impact on some folks. I'm sure there's a lot of people in warehouses somewhere folks in warehousing that are like, you know what, Jeremy really helped me with X,
I hope
right?
so.
Or
Yeah, I hope so.
and I think that from talking with you, it sounds like you're somebody that definitely pays it forward.
I try. Yeah. I don't need much more in life. I got a nice life. So if I'm going to spend time working, I might as well help other people, and that's the best part of being the college professor, is going in and telling stories, whether it's from my civilian career, from the military, or it's borrowing it from other people, to make them understand the concept better. Yeah. I can't believe I get paid to do it.
Yeah.
That's great.
No, that's really awesome. I guess, that kind of leads me to the question I usually ask folks, right? When they come on here, because one of the things we're always trying to figure out is when we started this, when Scott actually, who came up with the idea for this podcast.
For a podcast, you came up with the idea of the topic.
It's fair. It's a team thing, but Scott pushed us
Team
to do
effort.
it. And one of the things I'm always curious about is when we talk to folks who've done this for a long time, it's like, would you recommend, if someone was coming into this industry, whether they're going into trucking, whether they're going into brokerage, whether they're going into warehousing, supply chain, shipper side, broker side, 3PL side, doesn't matter. What's one thing you'd tell them to say, hey, if you're going to do this, right? One piece of unsolicited advice from Jeremy, what would it be?
Well, so I don't know if it's really unsolicited advice, but it's the nature of our industry. Because if you're an architect, you got to be an architect. If you're a lawyer, you got to be a lawyer. If you're in supply chain and logistics and transportation, if you like the medical field, but you don't want to be a doctor, you can work in medical logistics. If you like cars and trucks, you can work in transportation. If you like sitting behind a computer and not interacting with anybody, there's a job for us. You like being in leadership, you like being in sales, all the different types of roles that you can have out in the real world. You like fashion, but you're not that creative. Go work in the retail industry in fashion, and you get to be around it all day long. So I think that's probably the thing that I tell most people is this is great. And I think it's one of the reasons why people don't realize it's an industry, because they say they're in the medical field, they say they're in retail, they say they're in fashion. But you can do it all. And if you get into an area that you don't like, it's really easy to switch. I don't like working in retail because I'm working, holidays and stuff. I'm going to go work somewhere where we don't have peak seasons, but I get to still, I mean, I got friends at OSU Wexner Medical Center, and some of the stuff they do, and that they, I mean, they're getting eyeballs as part of their supply, I mean, it's fascinating. So I encourage all kinds of people. I love when I have students come into my class that aren't supply chain majors, and I try really hard to encourage them to get into the industry, just because it's a lot of fun. I mean, there's just so much stuff that you can do. So that's like the one big piece of advice is don't narrow yourself to like one particular area. Explore what you like.
Anything.
Yeah.
Very cool. That's it. I'm going to go be an equipment manager from an NHL team. Forget it.
Scott, you would love that.
I would, but they don't pay. So that's the other problem.
Hey, if you love what you do, Scott, you never work a day in your life. I said, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. Jeremy, I appreciate that that response. I really like the way you said that, because I think a lot of people look at it as like, oh, you're just in transportation, or you just work in a warehouse. And
nothing gets there without us, baby.
Nothing moves. And I think, I had a conversation with someone recently that, I said, what's funny is walking around a warehouse that was about 1 million square feet. I said, this stuff probably hasn't changed really about 2,000 years. And this is it's the same concept. There's just new things, because the idea is I get something, I confirm that I received something, and I either house that thing or give it to someone else that's going to bring it here locally. And, I'm sure, I think there was a tablet that someone found that someone was complaining about a bad copper shipment. And it was etched in the side of a piece of like rock or whatever they used as like papyrus or something. It was etched into clay. That's what it was. It was clay. And it's literally someone cussing someone out because they ordered X amount and it was, they got to it didn't match. Right. And they're like, hey, I ordered X, you gave me Y. Well, you're terrible. This is awful. And that's, but someone had to etch that into something and then pay someone to bring that to them physically.
Yeah.
A month later.
Yeah. So, I guess the real thing is reconciliation and tonus have probably been around for longer than those terms have existed. But I think that's, it's really fascinating, right? Because it doesn't go anywhere. It does touch everything, whether, brokerage or this or that. And I actually think we talked to someone a few weeks ago, it was Tracy, that said, everyone's a trucker.
Yeah.
Everyone is doing something that's touching that. So you got to kind of keep in mind that, like, oh yeah, you're palletizing, right? You're throwing things on a pallet, you're wrapping it up. You do it wrong, maybe it gets loaded wrong, maybe the balance is off, right? That affects somebody, and there's just so many pieces to it. So I don't know. I think that's really awesome, and a really awesome way to answer that question.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, we appreciate that. Paul, is there anything you wanted to rip, or should we let Jeremy get back to semi-retirement here?
I think Jeremy's probably got some really intricate Lego kits to either acquire or build.
That you can see. I know it's a podcast, but they're all over the place.
Right.
There isn't
those flowers.
Yeah,
we're on YouTube, so
space shuttle. There is not a flat surface in this house that does not have some sort of. That's the joy of living by myself. I can do whatever I want.
There you go. That's very legit.
Yeah, 100%.
Very legit.
Awesome.
Oh man.
Well, Jeremy, I hope will I see it work this year?
I don't think so. I've got a small conflict, and man, I had my fill. I was the conference director last year. That was a big deal. So, I may not be there.
Hey, it sounds.
If I am, I'll look you up.
Yeah, if you are, look me up. If not, I'm sure we'll, you get some time on your hands. You want to come back on the podcast, talk about something,
Sure.
Love to chat with you again. But thanks so much for coming.
Appreciate it. Yeah,
man, we really appreciate it. This was great. Love hearing about the Army stuff. It's always just fascinating.
Yeah,
so,
love talking about it.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, to everyone listening, please be sure to check us out every other Tuesday at What's Domiciled on YouTube and Spotify for the full episodes, and YouTube and Instagram for the reels. So we really appreciate you for tuning in, and thank you for your support. Like, comment, subscribe, and have a great day.